Hi everybody, it's Dr. Stuart D. Swerdlow.
You sure that's your name?
Not today, I'm not sure what my name is.
Because last week I told you might have been adopted because you're out like wandering the universe.
I was.
Yeah, and this is Janet Diane Moya Swerdlow.
And this is the Expansions News Podcast for the third week of July 2019. And I personally cannot wait until it's freezing and snowing outside because I don't like this weather.
That was, you wearing snow colors?
Yes, and I just, I've had enough. It's only been hot for a couple of days, but that's enough for me.
Feels like forever, especially for us here in Michigan. We're not used to it.
Well, tomorrow's going to be better. But as you know, well, maybe they don't know, last night, there was another derecho storm that knocked out power for over 200,000 people
But not
in
us.
Michigan. We missed it by this much.
'Cause we have a
thanks to me.
Because we,
Thanks to me.
Because we have a great mind pattern.
And because I pushed it away.
Because we have a great mind pattern and didn't attract it.
Okay, back to me. So we are having a heat wave, and no, it's not part of global warming. It's freaking July, summertime in the Midwest, and it's hot here in the summer. Hello, not global warming, just normal. Anyway, thankfully it doesn't last long. Well, I have some very interesting stories to tell you, my opinion, and I'm going to save some of the important information, bullet points, for the end of my particular part. Now, we know how many weeks, months have I been complaining about the Minnesota representative Ilhan Omar, who is considered to be a far-left communist, socialist demon. Anyway, her father and other Somalian people are guilty of war crimes and are currently living illegally in the United States. Omar's father, he has two names. One name is Nur Omar Mohammed. He is also known as Nur Saeed Elmi Mohammed. And he is connected to the former dictator in Somalia, Saeed Barre. Nur and other former Barre accomplices are living in the U.S. illegally. Isn't that right? Who is that one? That's Jasmine. Yeah. Now, Omar's father Mohammed and his friend Yusuf Abdi Ali killed thousands of Somalians and escaped to the West and were not vetted properly before entering this country.
Wow.
Whose fault was that? I will give you. You can determine who that is. Barre was a dictator and was connected to the Cuban dictator Fidel Castro, as well as other dictators around the world. It's not a secret that Ilhan Omar's father illegally entered the United States. And according to a 2016 article on Omar, when the Marxist regime was being overtaken in Somalia, they lived in a compound. Apparently, Ilhan Omar, she was very,
Oh, you mean an elite compound? Oh,
Yes.
That's not what they make her out to be.
Yeah, really, hello. She's full of baloney. I would say other words, but I can't.
That would be racist.
I could. No, that's another thing I'm going to get to.
Everything is
I'm going to get to in a minute, yeah. I don't care what color she is. She's a pig. Anyway.
That would be pink.
Yeah, they were under attack by 20 armed men, but somehow they managed to escape. So nobody knows if their superior armed guards helped them, or if they bribed the attackers, or if the whole story is a fabrication. We don't know. But she got out, that we do know. And the reason they left was because her father would be put on trial and shot if he was caught, because he was a traitor to his own country, just like she's a traitor to this one, like daughter, like father, like daughter. They both ended up in the U.S. and both hid the fact that they worked for a totalitarian regime. They lied on their Form N-400 application for naturalization about their communist background. The Immigration and Nationality Act, called INA, contains a prohibition on naturalization for anyone involved within the last 10 years with a group that advocates or teaches opposition to all organized government or involved with the Communist Party, luckily then check my family, or any other totalitarian party of the US, or any foreign state, or who advocates world communism or totalitarian dictatorship, well, that'd be Obama, even without formal group membership. Both Noor and Yusuf should be disqualified from permanent US residency, and the revocation of the US citizenship should take place, and that includes Ilan. Representative Omar reportedly lied after she married her brother in order to assist him in obtaining US citizenship. This is not a rumor, this is a fact. She refuses to this day to detail who her siblings are, because one of them is her second husband. They all should be sent back to Somalia, and I agree with President Trump. Because you know what? I'll tell you this in the next story. I know you have a story on this, so I won't go into detail on this. But Senator Lindsey Graham, who appeared on Fox and Friends, called her a socialist. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and her squad, I don't know where that word came, squad, and he called them all anti-American and a bunch of communists. And he said, and it's interesting that those who originally came from countries whose governments are a complete and total catastrophe are telling the people of the United States how to run their government. Really? That's like Hitler coming here and saying how it should be running. And so when President Trump said, why don't they go back and help fix the totally broken and crime-infested places from which they came, I agree with him. And the media and the squad assumed it was a racist comment, though President Trump never mentioned anybody's race or their religion or their color at all. It could be anybody. You don't like it here? Leave. You agree? Yeah, you don't want to be politically incorrect, do you? Anyway, he called the senator, said they're socialist, anti-Semitic, and they stand for all the things that most Americans disagree with. And he also said that that most of the people in the United States overwhelmingly rejected their views. But because they're so obnoxious and stupid and hateful, they will help get Trump reelected. And so, anyway, I want to go on to Nancy Pelosi, because she is the Speaker of the House, she's in charge of the Democrats, blah blah blah. She was booed after attempting to shame lawmakers into supporting the House Democrats' resolution to condemn what they consider a racist tweet by President Trump, arguing that anything less would be a shameful abdication of their oath of office to protect the American people. Is protecting the American people, letting the borders open so criminals from all over the world can come in, is that protecting them? And she said, quote, I have cleared my remarks with the parliamentarian before I read them, she said flippantly as she walked off, as she was being booed. Nancy's losing it. She's losing control, and she will have to do something against AOC and Omar if she wants to stay in power. Now, again associated with this, George Soros is running ads in Central America telling migrants that they will get free stuff in the USA.
That's true.
I'd like to get free stuff
Me
in
too.
the USA, or any place actually. Illegal immigrants are telling local news reporters that come to the United States that they saw advertisements online, in newspapers, and on TV talking about the loads of free handouts that await them in the United States. Did you stand outside with stuff, people?
I didn't. I want to get free stuff.
I want to stand outside.
I like free stuff.
Yeah. They said every illegal immigrant that was interviewed said they came to the U.S. because free American services and assistance are being advertised in their home countries. So, as I mentioned many times on this podcast, the immigrants are a scam to attack President Trump. Open the borders. That means no control, allowing criminals in and drugs in and everything else. Speaking of criminals and things that are bad,
That's Jade. Now, those of you.
Yeah, because it's the Russian point of view for them, and they agree.
No, but the point is that when they're not in the room with us, people say they're whining, complaining. I said they're talking. They're right
No,
here.
they're talking.
Yes, he's under the table near our feet.
Well,
and
that's
he's,
her. She's the one.
No, he's talking. That's him talking.
Anyway,
So they talk.
Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan said that the Russian S-400 missile defense system, part of which has been delivered to Turkey over the past few days, would be fully deployed in April 2020. Quote, the S-400s are the strongest defense system against those who want to attack our country. Nobody's attacking Turkey. God willing, he said, we are doing this as a joint investment with Russia and will continue to do so. That's why he's on his way out. He's being completely voted out of every part of Turkey. And President Trump said that Turkey could be thrown off the F-35 stealth fighter jet program, and it was. So that means that now that they have F-35 jets, they can't get parts for them, and they can't fix them. So Erdogan is losing power, and I predict within 1 year, he will be history. The Turkish people, and I was in Turkey this year, and the Turkish people told me that they want to return to a time that was closer to the United States and Western Europe before Erdogan, and they had a much better lifestyle. Now, this is about your country.
Which one? I have a lot of them.
Western half of Washington State is considered earthquake country with the potential for very large earthquakes.
No, we know that.
And here are the top 3 areas. Well, first they said the Cascadia subduction zone, which runs parallel to the Pacific coast. Then, did you know there's a Seattle fault line?
Doesn't surprise me because it's built on marsh in the Puget Sound
Yes.
area.
And the third one is South Whidbey Island. That's
That I
in
hadn't
Puget
heard of.
Sound. And they said that runs from northwest to southeast of the southern tip of the island. These quakes are capable of 7 to over 8.
Wow.
And according to the scientists, they said the risk is complicated, but there are millions of people who live in the Seattle area. What we know about this fault is that it's ruptured many times in the past. It will happen again. We just don't know when. Would you want to live on top of that? I would not want to live on top.
I don't even want to go visit there anymore.
No. I will also add to that what is going on in California, Wyoming, Utah, and Nevada. The West Coast is toast. It's a toast coast. Now, talking about global warming. A week of heavy snowfalls, you know where?
Where?
Australia.
Well, this is their winter.
Yes, but it brought powder snow conditions to slopes of Australia with accumulations of more than 1 meter. That's
Well,
a lot of
it's winter
snow.
there, but it's winter.
Yes, but they usually don't have that much snow.
No?
No, there's also heavy snow falling in the mountains of New Zealand, in the Andes, and southern Brazil is having heavy frosts. No Ipanema bikini time.
No. Still up in the northern part of Italy, in the Alps, they're also getting snow.
Now, you know my mother was Romanian. Now, in Romania, there's a place called St. Anne Lake, which of course is different translation in Romanian. And there is a crater, an ancient crater in the lake from the Jomadul volcano. It's considered to be dormant or extinct. However, it turns out the rocks miles below this area are stewing with
believe that.
surprising amount of heat that suggests the system likely harbors between 5 and 14 cubic miles of magma, a maximum volume more than 20,000 Great Pyramids of Giza.
Wow.
Which we were there also, which was very good. But it calls attention to the potential hazards of often overlooked volcanoes that have quietly simmered, like you simmer on the stove, for tens of thousands of years. One sign, that this is I find this funny. One sign that a seemingly quiet volcano has the potential for future eruptions is if volumes of molten rock linger below it. Duh!
Even Even I think that's hilarious.
It's like, it might be snowing if it's snowing.
Well, that makes sense, right?
Seriously, who writes this stuff? They also hinted that a zone between 3 and 17 miles down may be more mush. It's mush because it's melting. The rock is melting because it's a volcano. And they said latest analysis suggests that an eruption may be possible at Chomodor. That means Romania will be buried under ash. Now, many volcanoes are activating now, even those that once considered dormant or extinct. And I reported many months ago, I can't remember when, maybe it was even last year, that there is a super volcano brewing, remember where? Underneath Vermont and New Hampshire.
Oh yeah, you did report that. I forgot that.
So all you people in peaceful little New England. Now, do you want me to read this now or
I
later?
don't know what it is.
It's about what's going on behind the scenes secretly.
Well, whenever you want, if you feel it's appropriate, go for it.
Well, those of you who read my blog,
Well, that's what I was going to say. They really should sign up for a membership.
Well-
because the membership, all these things we're talking to
because
you about,
I have been hesitant in saying certain things because YouTube and so on, they block people who say certain things. And in fact, it's been noted that they purposely diminish the viewer
right? That's what they do to us.
so that for every 5 people that watch, they report 1.
Yeah. And not only that, I told you even last week, my video when you weren't here, it wasn't even up 30 seconds, and they had put limited viewership
because
on it.
they're purposely keeping this information
Right.
down. So I urge all of you, if you like my work, our work, and you want this information out, copy the link, copy the video,
Like,
copy
comment,
my blog,
subscribe, and
send
share.
it to everybody you know.
Right, and get a membership, less than $1 a day, and we discuss these details in these things we're telling you about in a lot of details on our website.
So I want
The
to
membership
I want to summarize bullet points.
Because you think it's so important.
It is, and
That's why I'm
people should
asking.
know, and they're going to find it bizarre. But what has been revealed by the deep military intelligence in the last 6 months or so, which you can accept or reject. I'm just going to tell you what it is, and you can accept or reject. Michelle/Michael Obama is a man and a CIA agent, and so is Meghan Markle.
Is she
In
a
fact,
CIA agent
in fact, Michelle Obama gives instructions to Meghan Markle through the news media. Interdimensional beings are trying to take over the planet, and that is the real reason for the wall and Trump's comment to go back where they come from. If you don't like it here, it has nothing to do with race or Mexicans or Central Americans. It has to do with beings who are invading this planet, trying to take over. Chemtrails are being eliminated in the United States, and the air and water is being cleaned. Child sex rings are being exposed, as we have seen
I know,
recently.
I've been reporting on that.
The organization Planned Parenthood has been exposed for selling fetuses, and now the laws are changing in some states where no abortion, except for extreme emergencies, and there's a reason for that. Listen to my you should come to the September class.
Yeah.
Iran will have another revolution to remove the fake Islamists. The CIA and MI6 in Britain created ISIS, Al-Qaeda, and most of terrorism in the world. The NSA is now under the control of President Trump and the good guys. Mullah and Comey are homosexual lovers. Snowden, yes, I know that you know all the truth.
She liked the word snow,
Yes, but because of where they come from, Siberia.
and she's white.
That's racist.
Like white
Yeah.
snow.
Snowden
Snow is
and
what,
Assange will be brought to the U.S. for trial, and they will sing like birdies and tell all the people the truth. Hillary Clinton, Pierre Trudeau, and Barack Obama are being exposed for their uranium deal through which they allowed it to be sent to Iran.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
You mean Pierre or Justin?
Oh, Justin.
Because I know in the one last
Yeah.
podcast you said Pierre as well.
Yeah, because you know what? Pierre is not his father. Fidel is his father.
So we just want to make
So,
sure
yeah,
you
you're right.
you do
It's
know that
Justin, he's out. He's a criminal. Nuclear facilities are not in Iran. They're in northern Syria, and that's why Israel is bombing northern Syria. And Jussie Smollett will soon have federal charges against him. He's a very bad person. And that's what I have.
Well, I have quite a bit of news. So if you need to take a break, get a cup of coffee or whatever.
No, sit there and
Glass
listen.
of water.
You can pee later. I'm
Anyway.
peeing right now, doesn't it?
That's because you have the astronaut diaper.
No, I'm just going.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right, so I wanted to make a couple of comments about what's happening with Trump and these four. They're calling them always newly elected congressmen of color.
Listen to me. I have a color. You have a color. Everyone has a color.
That's right, I know. Anyway, Trump is claiming that these women should apologize to him,
Yes, they should.
even after what he said, which you had talked about.
There was nothing wrong with what he said. It was true.
And what's interesting is exactly what you said, that the comments are being condemned as racist, but it had nothing to do with race.
No.
So he wants them to apologize to he's calling the radical left congresswomen. They need to apologize to our country, the people of Israel, to the office of the president for the foul language they have used and the terrible things that they have
I
said.
agree.
Yeah. And he said if the Democrats want to unite around the foul language and racist hatred spewed from the mouths and actions of these very unpopular and unrepresentative congresswomen, it will be interesting to see how it plays out.
First of all, who voted for them? Nobody.
We don't know that, do
because
we?
they were the only ones really running, and like even Nancy Pelosi said, a glass of water would have won.
Yeah. What's interesting is I'm like you. How did they come up with this name of the squad? That's not been talked about. All of a sudden
They
just
also are calling the 4 horsewomen of the apocalypse.
Yes, I have all that in my thing, but that's I wanted to bring that up and see why are they calling them these things.
Because they're demonic.
And it also says that which you had talked about, and I reported on that before. I think she was even elected about her being married to her brother, and that she's failed to disprove the claims of bigamy and fraternal marriage.
Because she won't talk about it.
Now, what's interesting to me is that Trump is thanking these women for boosting his approval rating.
Yeah, right.
So then this was what I wanted to say.
They are
Is
stupid as can be.
maybe they're part of the act of the show to make him look good.
No.
I don't know.
I know that they're not.
Well, that's what I said, because everything they're doing is just making him look better and better all the time.
You can't be that stupid.
So they said it was actually Louisiana Republican Senator John Kennedy who said that they were like the 4 women of Apocalypse, which is a biblical prophecy that presages the end of the world.
Well, that's true.
Yeah,
The end of the world is coming as we know it.
So I thought that was a very interesting thing. I just want to bring up some things that maybe you might have overlooked.
That's why I'm eating as much sushi and stuff as I possibly can.
Yeah, and Representative Mike Kelly, Republican of Pennsylvania, talked about being a person of color. And he said, I'm white, I'm Anglo-Saxon, I'm a person of color. People say things all the time and I don't get offended.
Yeah, I have a color.
Right. And then he says some people will be offended if you say good morning, they're unhappy.
Right.
And they said he's been told to go back to his home country because he's Irish. So anyway, he says it's time to stop
I think he's
fixating
better off in Ireland.
on our differences and focus on what unites us.
A lot of good dark ale there.
Yeah, there you go. So, and then El Chapo.
Oh, yes.
Did you read about the Mexican president
Yes.
who wants his
$12
money?
billion.
$12.6 billion drug money, he says, belongs to Mexico, not
No.
the U.S.
Hello. That drug money came from American citizens. It belongs here.
I thought it was very interesting. So, and they call him a leftist leader, Obrador.
He kind of is.
So he said they belong to the Mexican people, not the U.S. And then he complains about El Chapo's jail conditions being inhumane.
Oh, please. The guy should be executed, not in
So
jail.
it'll be interesting to see what happens, because I really doubt Trump's going to turn that money over
No.
to Mexico.
Not going to happen.
That's not going to happen. And the Trump administration moves to end asylum protections for most Central American migrants. Apparently what he wants to do, and I don't know, I didn't follow up to see if it actually been passed, maybe you can tell us, is that the asylum seekers who pass through another country must seek asylum there first before they can try to seek asylum in the U.S.
That's the law.
Well,
I reported on
they're
that.
making that a law.
It is a law.
No, they're saying it would be
No,
effective.
no. The law is that if you, the first country you enter, that's where you seek asylum.
I just got this article last week,
I'm
and they
telling
said
you, it was
it.
in my podcast a couple of weeks ago.
Well, it says the rule is set to be published in the Federal Register last Tuesday and would be effective immediately, according to this article. They said there were exceptions. For example, if you applied and you were denied, or you came to the U.S. through a country that were not party to the 1951 Convention relating to the status of refugees, blah, blah.
Here's my solution.
Yeah.
The United States should annex all of North America, Central America, and the Caribbean. No more problem.
Yeah, well, they're kind of doing that,
We
really.
should just
Kinda
annex
like
the whole
sneakily.
freaking continent.
But they're doing it. Now, this article is also interesting because so many things these days are trying to base it on race. So, Democratic presidential candidate Beto O'Rourke
Oh, he's a
said that his ancestors, as well as his wife Amy's, had owned slaves, and that they were both devastated by the
Oh,
revelation.
I'm sure they are.
And
as
then-
they live in their big mansion with their servants.
Then he says, I benefit from a system that my ancestors built to favor themselves at the expense of others. So then he says, I will continue to support reparations, beginning with an important national conversation on slavery and racial injustice.
How about he opens his big palatial mansion to the people who are coming across the border? How about that?
Yeah, and of course, as we all know, tens of millions of people living in America likely have ancestors who owned slaves, though many are unaware of the history. Now, of course,
Obama's apparently,
Yes.
or people, and Michelle Obama's
All of
ancestors
them.
owned slaves.
yes, and what is also interesting, because then people start wanting to talk about the indigenous people, they also owned slaves. You know, they would raid the
Yeah,
villages.
the Indians owned each other.
Right, exactly. So this is not about
People need to
black
read history.
people.
And here's the other thing. The guy from South Bend, the mayor, Buttigieg,
Yeah.
he's running for Democrat also. He says this yesterday that because being white is a privilege. Really? I don't have a privilege, do you?
No,
So what the hell is he talking about?
I don't know. And they've talked about white privilege for quite some time,
I'd like to have some. Where's mine?
which we
I don't have
have
any.
brought up in our news podcast, saying there really is no such thing.
I think it's a detriment. these days.
Yes, absolutely. Anyway, it was interesting following up on this article about reparation. Prince, you know, the music singer, Prince.
He's dead.
Yes, he's dead. However, his estate won a legal battle to stop his music from being bootlegged. And the estate won $7 million in reparation. So I thought that was interesting that they brought this up and used that same word, and that they're now flinging out, you know, for the black people, the black population here in the U.S. Now, next on the list, New Hampshire Republican lawmaker Werner Horn. Did you read about what he had to say? Okay, this was also very interesting because he came under fire for saying that slavery was not based on race, but it was based on economics. So was under so much fire for that he deleted his Facebook post. But then he went on to add, it shouldn't be surprising since owning slaves wasn't a decision predicated on race, but on economics. It's a business
It's
decision.
even in the Bible.
Not only that, just like what I said, American Indians owned American Indians. Every race, every person that's existed, they raid villages, they take slaves, they did it in Roman times, they did it in biblical times.
You know, here's my opinion.
They said that they did it to the Irish people over here in the U.S.
If you work in a conventional job and you pay taxes, you're a slave.
Yeah. But what they're doing, of course, they're trying to call the race card on everything. So apparently,
And the sex card.
well, right now we're doing race card. I'll get to the sex card.
Okay.
So apparently, what happened was there was a reporter, or no, actually, a former State House member, Dan Hines, posed the question to Werner Horn and said, let's see, if Trump is the most racist president in American history, what does that say about all the other presidents who owned slaves? And then Horn said, wait, owning slaves doesn't make you a racist.
Right.
And then he went on to say that abolitionists, since the start, were people who felt slavery wasn't moral. But they weren't enslaving black people because they were black, they were enslaving them because they were available. And not only that, but remember, black people in Africa sold black people. So human trafficking has gone on, and that's what all over the
Since the beginning
news.
of time.
Exactly. So it's really not even slavery to me. It's like human trafficking. It's always gone on, and it is an
And
economic
it still
thing.
exists in
It's-
most parts of the world.
Yes, exactly. I mean, if you read a lot of the Middle Eastern stories where the women go over
Africa,
there to
Asia.
everywhere. So it's not a racist thing. It's a unfortunately a moral dilemma that people do.
In fact, there are more black people in Africa that own slaves than any white people ever did.
And black people here own slaves. So they're trying to and I call it, divide and conquer. They're trying to divide and conquer is about race. It's not race. To me, it's what's good and bad, right and wrong, what's moral and not moral. It has nothing to do with race. It has to do with what's in your heart and doing the correct thing. And then, of course, I reported extensively on Jeffrey Epstein last time. Now, just to kind of briefly catch you up, he was denied bail in federal court with a 33-page decision filed by the judge. And the judge said it finds that the government has shown by clear and convincing evidence that Mr. Epstein threatens the safety of another person and the community. He was deemed a flight risk, and his bail package offer was rejected as inadequate.
But where's he going to go? Where's he going to go?
Well, that much money,
There's no place on
anywhere
earth
he
that
wants.
he could go right
He
now.
can go anywhere he wants.
No.
So
You have
he's,
to leave the planet.
well, maybe that's what needs to happen to a person like that. And the judge wrote that his alleged excessive attraction to sexual conduct with or in the presence of minor girls appears to be uncontrollable.
That's true.
And married Israeli politician Ehud Barak was seen entering Jeffrey Epstein's New York City townhouse
Well, that's
back
not a
in
crime.
2016. No, but it associates him with him, which he doesn't like. So
You know what? If he goes to the grocery store, does that mean the clerk is associated with him?
just telling you what they're reporting. So Barak is now charging Netanyahu behind the DailyMail.com blood libel tying him to Epstein. So what we've been telling you about Epstein is that this is it. As I told you before, it's a case to watch because it's going through the highest levels of all of society. And it says that Barak's ties to Epstein go back over 15 years and has become an unexpected hot-button issue in the election campaign in Israel. So Barak was out of politics for nearly a decade. So we're going to see what's going to happen with that story.
I never trusted him anyway.
And speaking of, it seems like every time I open up the news, there's a pedophile, horrible things really, like these men raping their daughters and 1 year old, 2 years old, filming themselves. It's horrible.
Right.
Robert Kelly, who's an R&B singer who goes by R. Kelly, is now accused of paying a girl in a rape tape $2 million not to testify at his trial, sexually assaulting a drugged woman who had been locked in a room for days, and convincing his sex slaves to make a suicide pact. And interestingly enough,
He's very bright.
but he went through kind of the same sort of thing that this Epstein went through, a little bit different. But in '94, when he was 27, he married a 15-year-old girl.
What? Where?
Yeah, I don't know
How
where.
is that legal?
I don't know, but that's what he did. In some states that they could be pretty young, so I don't know. And then at the same time, he was sued by a woman who claimed that he induced her into an indecent sexual relationship when she was 17. Then in 2002, 2003, he was arrested at the Miami-Dade Hotel in Florida on additional child pornography charges, where they found photos of him raping an underage
Who
girl.
takes pictures of this?
He apparently took his own
Did you
pictures.
think that?
And he had hidden cameras. So then the charges were
Well, he's an
dropped.
idiot.
The charges were dropped. Then in 2004, the Cook County prosecutors had 21 child pornography charges against him and dropped 7. And then it said, it doesn't say what happened to him in this article. And then in January 2019, Lifetime aired a documentary called Surviving R. Kelly. And because of the Cook County State's attorney held a press conference because her office was inundated with calls about the allegations. 2019, this February 2019, next thing we know, attorney Michael Avenatti gave Chicago prosecutors new video evidence of Kelly having sex with an underage girl.
Avenatti needs to watch his own butt because he's in big trouble.
No, he needs to watch the front. Yeah, it's not the same evidence in his 2008. Something different. Charged with 10 counts of aggravated sexual abuse, and he was released. Then in May of 2019, Cook County filed 11 new sex-related counts. So now, it just goes on and on, these people. So it's amazing to me. But every time I open up, so this pedophilia stuff, which I told you many, many months ago, probably a few years ago, is getting bigger and bigger. And it's another hot button. Now in California, in Berkeley, the city is now banning gender-specific words like manhole and policeman from their municipal code ender. Now that you have to say, let's see, where maintenance hole and police officer.
Right, so you can't use any gender.
No, and
Because there are no genders, right? There's no men or women, right? There's something else.
yes, exactly. We don't know what they are.
Right.
Aliens, right? Okay,
Nobody
so
has any gender.
no. So now, instead of he and she, they have to be called they or them.
Oh, please. I am not doing that.
Both. Well, this is only in Berkeley. When
Well,
you're
I'm not doing
when
that.
you're Berkeley,
I don't care.
You have to do it if you're
I'm
in
not
Berkeley.
doing it anywhere.
You have to do it in Berkeley. That would still indicate a single individual, unless the context indicates to the contrary. And they're doing this to, they call
Oh,
it
screw them.
promote equality.
No, it's promoting stupidity.
Okay. Speaking of which, I had talked about this last week about the lesbian women. I told you about it and you came home because it was so ridiculous. Who were kicked out of the National Theatre Bar in London, and because they didn't want to say that women have penises.
Oh my God. They don't.
So while they were there, because I had time to look this one up, there's a group called Get the L Out, and I had reported, and I said I didn't know what that meant. Well, what they want is that it said this is a group of lesbians who say that the only way to end anti-lesbianism is to get the L out of the LGBT community. They don't want to be associated with
So
that
they want a
community.
separate group.
They want
They
their
just want to
own
be
group.
L.
Yes, because they said we stand against any kind of misogynistic politics and systems that prioritize men's interests, queer politics and transgenderism, right-wing politics, left-wing politics, patriarchal religious institutions, men's rights activism, racism, and capitalism. So they're against all of that.
Well, that's good.
Now, it's very interesting to me. That's why I'd say about divide and conquer. And as I said, we do have real lesbian clients.
We do.
And so this
We
is...
have everybody.
Yes, and so one of the lesbians wrote about how she took her son, I don't know if it was this, I think it was a couple of years ago, to a gay pride thing, and she said it wasn't about gay pride, she said it was about fetishes, and she, couldn't get her son out of there fast enough. So it's interesting now to me that they're dividing people like this. So
It's not divide and conquer. That's the whole
Yes.
thing. Divide, divide, divide.
Yes, so-
no unification.
Exactly. So this group of lesbians that Get the L Out said that we are witnessing how trans activism erases lesbians and silences and demonizes lesbians who dare to speak out. So this woman who's writing this actually went to a gay pride parade and walked in front of what is now called the queer and trans people, and she was labeled transphobic by the mayor of London. Believe it or not.
The little creepy London guy.
That's I don't know what year this was, 2018. So
Yeah, he needs to be voted
yeah,
out.
but I'm just saying, that this is a woman.
Who voted for him?
I don't know. And then in 2016, it says there was a survey done that found that 31% of women surveyed reported not feeling comfortable or welcome at Pride, which is, I was telling you about one of our clients. So this site, since the arrival of trans activism, this problem has been exacerbated as women not only feel unwelcome, but lesbians in particular are being actively pushed out of Pride events. So I found that, there's still a little bit more here because it was fascinating to me what's going on. So when they were at these things, they carried signs that says transgenderism erases lesbians. Lesbian, not queer. Remember I told you queer to me is a derogatory term, but people are using
I
it.
don't know where that came from.
Like I said, it used to be if you use that word, that was derogatory.
It just meant strange.
No, it meant
When I was
it was
young.
a derogatory slang
When
about.
I was young, it meant, oh, that's queer. That means it's strange.
Well, yeah, but then it became a derogatory slang toward what I would call homosexuals.
Right.
Now, then I was told homosexual is a derogatory term, and you should only use
Why?
lesbian or
Why
gay.
is that?
I don't know. But
Gay
what-
means you're happy.
Well, it used to be that. But it's interesting now. The lesbians want to be known as a female homosexual. So after, for us people who are,
Oh, please, you know what? People, stop it.
But-
Just stop it.
then there's also a website called Transgender Trend, and the lesbian detransitioner writes that as her body was changing, she thought maybe she would rather have the body of a boy, but she wasn't quite aware of her attraction toward girls. So what the real lesbians are saying, that now the medical institution, and they call it now the queer culture, see this sign that they wanted to trans over to something else. So they take these young, lesbians that don't know what they are yet, and they give them mastectomies and give them
What?
hormones. Yes,
How can you have a vasectomy if you're
No,
a
vasectomy,
Oh,
dear.
mastectomy. Okay.
mastectomy.
I need to put my hearing aid
I
in.
guess so. So therefore, instead of waiting like we've talked about before for them to settle down and their bodies to settle down, now this was even more interesting because this woman who's writing this article claims that this is modern conversion therapy. Because they're saying, okay, you're a boy or you're a girl, but they're doing it in a weird way. And then it says that transgender ideology forces heterosexuality on lesbians, which pressures women to accept men as female and accusing lesbians of transphobia when they won't sleep or date men who claim to be women.
I have no understanding of any of that.
That's like,
It's like you might as well speak in Swahili.
Bruce Jenner,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Okay, he turned into a woman but is dating a woman. So if he was a man...
Why did
Right.
he do that?
Right, it doesn't.
Why?
Right, that's my point. It makes no sense. And then she's saying that lesbians are routinely being conversed into sexual relations with trans women, or they're being called transphobic. So now they're running all these people down because they want a specific type of sexuality, not who you are, but
Everybody needs to just stop.
Yeah, remember,
Just cut it out.
True Reality of Sexuality. You need to read that one. And
Ridiculous.
We're going to have an updated book here,
Can't
hopefully
say
by the end
he,
of the year.
can't say she, can't say this, that. Screw that crap.
Yeah. Anyway, it's a very interesting website. If you want to know what's going on in the real lesbian world, check that one out. And then, speaking of discrimination, in Florida, your favorite state,
Yeah, I love that place.
apparently in Florida, McDonald's refused to hire a Hasidic Jew unless he shaved his beard.
First of all, why would a Hasidic Jew work in a non-kosher McDonald's?
I don't know, but anyway, they said that the EEOC, the Employment Equal Opportunity, whatever it is suing this McDonald's. And they want to get 3 years of back pay for this guy.
Please.
Yeah.
He should not work there.
Well, I'm just telling you.
Would they hire a goy to work in their place? No.
I'm just telling you what the article is.
Just people, stop.
And then speaking of global warming.
Wait till I take over. There's going to be big changes.
Speaking of global warming, an icebreaker headed for the North Pole was turned back by thicker ice than expected, almost 10 feet thick,
Yay, I'm glad to hear it.
in the middle of July.
Hello, I'm vindicated.
The Norwegian icebreaker was on a mission to the North Pole for the Institute of Marine Research, was forced to turn back north of Svalbard.
Good. I love Svalbard.
I do too.
My favorite place in the world.
I love Svalbard. Anyway, it says that not even the researchers' long special purpose chainsaws were able to penetrate the ice.
Good.
They saw polar bears in that area.
And they were very healthy, I'm sure.
Yep, and it says that shows how far south the ice edge
Yeah,
is.
hello.
And then the captain, who has worked for several decades on various vessels in the Arctic, said in the middle of July, we see few signs of thawing and that spring has come. We had expected more melting and that the ice was disintegrating. And he's had decades of working up there.
I told you, it's solar minimum. It's ice age.
Yeah. So, and now, speaking of the Ice Age and aliens,
I love
right?
both.
I reported last time about the whatever it was, where the people were going to go storm Area 51.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, they wanted to raid them and quote, see them aliens, or
Which
break
is a
them
really
aliens free.
stupid idea.
Well, anyway, they said it was, whoever started this thing said it was a joke. However, it was an event supposedly planned for September 20th. Says the U.S. Air Force took the potential threat to the Nevada base seriously.
Well, of course they have to.
And the spokeswoman says that she would like to discourage anyone from trying to come into the area where we trained American armed forces.
Right, they'll be killed.
Right. They said you weren't here, but the last person to try to enter in January of this year was actually shot dead. That's what they said. Right?
Look, I'm not saying that they should be keeping it a secret, but if you're going to attack a military base, what do you expect?
That's right. But anyway, Bud Light says that it will create a special edition beer can just in time for people who are preparing to raid the Area 51 area if they get 51,000 retweets on Twitter, and they have a picture of their special
I'm sure
beer
they'll get
can.
that.
So they wanted to make this beer can thing. And they want to say that we would like to be the first brand to formally announce that we will not be sponsoring the Area 51 raid.
It's not going to happen.
I know, but it's just funny. And it says free Bud Light to any alien that makes it out.
Because now they also want people to raid the Bermuda Triangle.
I've got that. You're ahead of
sorry.
me. Okay? So, but before I get to that, this was kind of interesting because we have Bud Light. Okay, now I've got an Oklahoma animal shelter that says they want you to raid it instead of Area 51.
Why?
To get animals.
Oh, I see.
To pick up some adorable tinfoil hat wearing critters to protect you from the Area 51 aliens. The animal shelter said on its site that adoption isn't that far out of this world, and they have 156 dogs, 24 cats, 2 pigs, and a hamster
Just like we do.
available. Yeah. Now onto your story. the Bermuda Triangle. They're claiming that more than 40,000 people
Yeah.
have joined the new plan to storm
That's
the
another
mysterious
brilliant
region.
idea. Brilliant.
This one for October 1st, they said, which will have live music, entertainment,
So
and
if
a
you
beach
survive the Area 51, then you can just go
yeah,
there.
why not? Yeah, that's true. September 20th, then you could kind of walk across the country.
That's really smart.
So right now it says more than 1.5 million Facebook users said they would attend that gathering.
Right, good
Which
luck.
they claim, of course, like the other one was revealed to be a hoax, but people will do what people will do.
People are stupid. Stupid,
Crazy
stupid
things.
people.
Obviously, they don't have much to do, right? And NASA said that we will start harvesting precious resources like platinum from the moon this century.
Oh, good. I hope I get some.
Lunar mining could be on the horizon with the advances in technology and added investment.
Good.
So, Matt thought that was an interesting article. Now, the last couple, believe it or not, I think are the most interesting ones that I have of everything. So I saved those for last. So, this first one is about the flesh-eating disease that's heading the East Coast.
It's all over the place.
Now, what's interesting is there is a rabbi who is quoting from the Bible saying that it's similar to Gog and Magog, a disease in Zechariah. It says, as for those peoples that warred against Yerushalayim, Hashem will smite them with his
Hashem.
plague. Hashem will smite them with this plague. Their flesh shall rot away while they stand on their feet. Their eyes shall rot away in their sockets. Their tongues shall rot away in their mouths.
Okay, that's just like visiting New York.
Yeah. So anyway, all over the East Coast, people have been dying, as we know if you're reading the news. So I'm not going to go through that because you can read the link. But the interesting thing is that typically the infection, well, part of the interesting thing is that the infection enters through the body, then it lives in warm, salty water, usually in Florida, one of your favorite places.
Oh, yeah, it's another great place.
They say about 1,000 cases. We're going to have to.
Dogs are eating my feet.
About 1,000 cases occur in the U.S., about 100 deaths, but the rates are increasing. And recently it says a growing number of cases have been reported among fishermen and crabbers in Delaware Bay between New Jersey and Delaware. So,
Who goes in the water off New Jersey?
well, the crabbers and the fishermen.
New Jersey? Hello.
The
No,
crab-
why don't you just fish in a sewer?
Well, they're in the Atlantic and they're getting this disease. This is the point that this rabbi is saying. His name is Rabbi Rami Levi.
Of course it
He's
is.
an end of days lecture from Jerusalem, and he said that the technical description of the disease resembles this plague described by Zechariah. He says the prophet described a disease that would accompany the war of Gog and Magog. He said the current outbreak is exceptional and appears to fit the prophet's description, but it is not nearly on the scale of what we will see. The rabbi said that this recent outbreak may be a reminder to the public to pray for others. He says right now we are just seeing wake-up calls. God works in stages, and this is God's way of showing that even though many of the prophecies seem unlikely or even impossible, they are possible. It gives us a chance to see that everything prophesied about the Messiah can indeed will happen, and we need to prepare now and not when they appear in fullness, but by then it will be too late.
Oh my God.
Oh my God. And my last one, which I think is even more interesting than the flesh-eating plague. This is about former
I'm a flesh eater. I eat meat.
Former U.S. President Jimmy Carter. This is a new thing.
He needs to go in his coffin.
This is to me is an extremely interesting article for a couple of reasons, which I will reveal as I go through it. Now, according to this, he's a Southern Baptist, and he's been talking about this for a long time. Well, he has decided to sever his ties with the Southern Baptist Convention after 6 decades.
The earth is coming to an end.
It says, this is really interesting to me. He said it was an unavoidable decision when the convention's leaders quoted a few carefully selected Bible verses claiming that Eve was created second to Adam, was responsible for original sin, ordained that women must be subservient to their husbands and prohibited from serving as deacons, pastors, or chaplains
So
in the
he's
military.
against that.
He's against this. He says this view that women are somehow inferior to men is not restricted to one religion or belief, in the world religion,
That's
right?
true.
Nor tragically does its influence stop at the walls of the church, mosque, synagogue, or temple. This discrimination, unjustifiably attributed to a higher authority, has provided a reason or excuse for the deprivation of women's equal rights across the world for centuries. Now, we all know when these people are on their way out, people of prominence, they oftentimes do things really unexpected.
He's senile.
Doesn't matter. I'm telling you what's happening, and it's going to even get more interesting as I just told you. Listen to this. I understand, however, why many political leaders can be reluctant about stepping into this minefield. Religion and tradition are powerful, sensitive areas to challenge. But my fellow elders and I, who come from many faiths and background, no longer need to worry about winning votes or avoiding controversy. We are deeply committed to challenging injustice wherever we see it. The elders are an independent group of eminent global leaders brought together by former South African President Nelson Mandela.
Okay, there's a red flag right there.
Yes, who offer their influence and experience to support peace building, help address major causes of human suffering, and promote the shared interests of humanity.
Yeah, and promote socialism, communism, and dictatorship.
New World Religion, they're bringing them all together under this. Is very interesting to me. And he goes on to say that during the early years of the Christian church, women served as deacons, priests, bishops, apostles, teachers, and prophets. It wasn't until the 4th century that dominant Christian leaders, all men, twisted and distorted holy scriptures.
It's called the Council of Nicaea.
To perpetuate their ascendant positions within the religious hierarchy. This is in clear violation not just of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, but also the teachings of Jesus Christ, the Apostle Paul, Moses, the prophets, Mohammed, and founders of other great religions, all of whom have called for proper and equitable treatment of all the children of God. It is time we had the courage to challenge these views. Now, it's interesting to me. I looked this up. There's actually, and you can look this up too, because I always put the links on, theelders.org. Okay, theelders.org. And to me...
You know where they're based?
No, but Nelson Mandela started it, and under that they have a council of advisors and they have a team. It's a very well organized thing, and I've never heard of it before. So by him pulling out and all these people pulling out and pulling together, and they're going to use women's rights, probably racism, and they're going to start pulling a whole other group of people to whatever it is that they're going to be promoting. And this is now, you're going to watch New World Religion, part of it come in under the auspices of the elders, because people are going to love that term.
We could be elders.
Well, we could be, but I don't want to be in this group. So he
We
posted
should
this.
start our own elder group.
He posted this July 15, so it's new. So it's very
That's
interesting.
Jimmy Carter.
Jimmy Carter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's
Well, they're using him as a spokespiece,
Yeah,
but a
because-
lot of people will follow him. You watch.
he's like, he needs to go back home.
It's very interesting to me. So you want to read The True Reality of Sexuality. Remember I told you if you like aliens, this book even has pictures in the back. So Blue Blood, True Blood, and all kinds of things. Very interesting. 13 Cubed, you want to control your mind before somebody else does it for
I
you.
wish I could control my mind.
And I'm going to tell you, Decoding Your Life, if you're a member on our site, we did a 3-year study course on this book. This is universal law. This is basics. This is your foundations. You need to know this information. It's free to our members. Membership, $26 a month, less than $1 a day. You get access to Stuart and I. You have our study blogs. You have my affirmation blogs. You have this information like you had told before. So this book, like I said, there's a whole series of webinars which is free to you once you join our website. So lots of stuff, so much content on our site. It's like people are amazed. They said, we can't believe that you can do this.
I can't believe that I write some of that stuff.
Well, I can believe I write it because I know I work darn hard.
Oh,
What?
so speaking of that,
Yeah?
let's announce that we have, you and I, finished our editing part in in 3 major books.
I'm tired of hearing about that. They just want to wait till we can show
Well,
them.
it's being now in the formal stuff.
Well, it's getting laid
ready.
out. It's getting laid out. So.
I'm getting laid out too.
So anyway, and what else? Oh, September class. September class is filling. If you're planning
It is
on
filling,
coming and
it
you want to
is.
hear more of the stuff like we talk about here, but in detail, and connect with others of like mind, you want to sign up for that like immediately before all the spaces are gone.
No one has a mind like mine.
That's true. I agree with that one. So you want to sign up for that immediately.
And we're going to start the webinars in September.
Webinars after the September class. Yeah, we
So
got to
like
figure it
another-
out.
Really, it's just 2 months.
Yeah, well, probably around the 1st of August, we're going to start getting things laid out again for the next few months and see where we're going. So
And next week you won't be here.
no, you'll be solo.
I'll be all by myself.
You're going to be bored, but it's okay. So anyway, like I said, join the website and please like, comment, subscribe, and share the YouTube channel. Check out our website and please don't write in about how we don't know our stuff because your comments will just be deleted because we know
Yeah,
our
because
stuff.
you know what? If you say that, you're really stupid.
True.
And
Yeah.
I want to acknowledge that our website and our podcast are monitored by Q.
And you're on the Q map.
I was. I don't know what
I
happened.
don't know. Well,
There's
we
been
have
many maps.
Oh, are there?
Mm.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I don't know if that's good or
Anyway,
bad.
so I welcome Q, and I am very honored that you watch our podcast.
Yeah, well, everybody should watch our podcast because we have such great information. That's my feeling about the deal. All right, so I won't see you next week, but Stuart will.
Yeah, and I'm much more important than you anyway.
You think so?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
And I'm much more pretty.
That part's true. I can't deny that.
So.
What about the dogs?
I don't know where they are.
Yeah, well, that's good. They were a bit noisy, but like we
They
just
don't
told
like
you.
this
what it is.
weather.
I'm sorry, those of you who don't like their pets. You know what? Say call it unprofessional. We really don't care.
Get over it.
That's right. We just had a nice little family here doing our thing. So until next time.
Bye.
Bye.